Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study with the coordinate trinities origin beings. And we're on section 2, the perfectors of wisdom, and that starts on page 215:10. So let's start a little prayer and we'll get started. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight that we might study this wonderful revelation. Help us to open our hearts and minds that we might learn something tonight and take it with us and share it with others. We pray this to do this in your will the best we can. We thank you. We give you the praise in Jesus' name, your son, Michael. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, I was saying before we started recording, let me say it again. Last week, I made an error, just blunder. That happens occasionally. We were talking about the perfectors of wisdom, the divine counselors, and the universal censors. And I swapped out the universal censors and the divine counselors because the universal censors are always the I am. They are the judgment of now, the I am. Okay, and I call them the I was. No, I will be. Right? Yeah, that was an error. It should be the perfectors of wisdom is the I was, the divine counselors is the I will be, and what's the third one?
Universal censors.
Universal censors are the I am. The universal censors are always the I am. The reason being the universal censors are the present time judgment. Okay, they're always the I am. Okay, and I called the perfectors of wisdom the I am last time. That was an error. Okay, I wanted to make that clear. I make them every now and then. Okay,
no,
so
you call the divine counselors the I am.
The I will be.
But they are the I will be.
I will be. That's right. They should be the I will be. And the reason I did that, I was trying to get the I was, I am, I will be together. And that's why I swapped the two out. Because you always talk about these three together as the perfectors of wisdom, the divine counselors, and the universal censors. So I put them in order that way too. And that's not the way it is, right? Okay, so one more time, the perfectors of wisdom is the I was. That's where wisdom comes from. It's from the past, right? The divine counselors are the I will be because they counsel us on what will happen in the future, right? Okay, and then the universal censors are the I am because they are the judgment arm, right? You always have a universal censor whenever the Ancients of Days makes judgments. Okay, all right, so now that we've got those all straightened out, we're going to go over these some more here. Okay, so let's start out with number 2, the perfectors of wisdom. Melly, would you start us out tonight?
Yes. Is my speaker on?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Number 2, the perfectors of wisdom. The perfectors of wisdom are a specialized creation of the Paradise Trinity designed to personify the wisdom of divinity in the superuniverses. There are exactly 7 billion of these beings in existence, and 1 billion are assigned to each of the 7 superuniverses.
So since there's 7 super universes, that's why there's 7 billion of them, right? And there's a little picture of the perfectors of wisdom. Also, you need to realize it says here that they personify the wisdom of divinity. What are they saying there? They're saying that the perfectors of wisdom are the wisdom of divinity, are the wisdom of the Paradise Trinity. Okay, so when they tell you something, it just like it comes from the Trinity. Okay, that's why they're called perfectors of wisdom. And then there's a reason why there's no perfectors of wisdom in Havana. Guess what that is? Because the Havana natives and the Paradise natives are born what? Perfect,
Perfect.
right? So they already have perfection of wisdom. Okay, so they don't need the divine counselors to teach them.
Roger.
Yeah,
It could be also because there's no time in paradise.
there's no past, present, and future.
There's,
Is there?
right. There's only now.
That's right. So there's no reason to have what? I was, I am, I will be, right? Because there is no time in paradise or Havana, right? Okay, that's a hard concept to even get down, right? All right, let's go on. Jane, would you, well, I better read tonight since there's only 4 of us here going to be reading. All right, in common with their coordinates, the divine counselors and the universal censors, the perfecters of wisdom pass through the wisdom of paradise, of Havana, and except for Divinington, of the Father's paradise spheres. After these experiences, the perfecters of wisdom were permanently assigned to service of the Ancients of Days. They serve neither on paradise nor the worlds on the Paradise Havana circuits. They are wholly occupied with the administration of the super universe governments. So since they're occupied with the administration of the super universe governments, there's no reason for them to be where? Paradise or Havana, right? All right. They also, notice this first sentence says they passed through the wisdom of Paradise Havana and except for Divinington. Why not Divinington? Because Divinington is reserved only for thought adjusters, right? They wouldn't have thought adjusters, would they? All right. So they passed through all the paradise, all of Havana, and all the Father's paradise spheres for experience before they went out to the 7 super universes. Okay. So that's kind of like their training in essence, even though they're born perfect. All right. Jane, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. Wherever and whenever a perfecter of wisdom functions, there and then divine wisdom functions. There is actuality of presence and perfection of manifestation in the knowledge and wisdom represented in the doings of these mighty and majestic personalities. They do not reflect the wisdom of the Paradise Trinity. They are that wisdom. They are the sources of wisdom for all teachers in the application of universe knowledge. They are the fountains of discretion and the wellsprings of discrimination to the institutions of learning and discernment in all universes.
Okay, it's interesting here that they say they are not reflection of the Paradise Trinity. You see that? It says they are that wisdom. In other words, when a perfecter of wisdom makes a statement about wisdom or teaching something, it's just as if it came from whom? The Paradise Trinity itself,
Trinity.
right? Because they are that source. Okay, and it also says here that they are the wisdom for all teachers and all universe knowledge. Why do you think that a perfecter of wisdom was assigned to the group of beings that revealed this paper? To make sure it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Correct. As close as possible. So the group of beings that reflected this paper, and many of these papers were written by what? A perfecter of wisdom, right? All right, so these beings, divine counselors, perfecters of wisdom, and universal censors, all 3 were involved in the revelation of this paper itself, in this book itself, is what I'm saying, okay? And at one point, we're going to read this, how many people, how many beings that they assigned to reveal this information to us. So do you think this book is important?
Absolutely.
You better bet your bippy it is, right? It is. Because this is the divine knowledge they are trying to teach us at the finite level. Okay. So I'd say that's pretty important, especially since they are the wisdom for all teachers and all applications of universal knowledge, right? So do you think when they say something is such and such a way, you think it might be that way? I would think so, wouldn't you? I'd say that's a pretty good information. And it also says they are the wellsprings of discrimination of the institutions of learning and discernment in all universes. So they not only do it on this finite level, but it's all the way up through the 7 super universes. Every bit of learning we get from all the planets, all the stops along the way, guess where the wisdom of it comes from? These beings right here. Okay. All right. So let's go.
Roger.
Yeah.
I guess we can clearly state that there is only one source of wisdom.
One source. That's right.
One source. It all fits together.
It does. And if
Yeah.
they are the wisdom of the Trinity, they are the wisdom of the Trinity, then we're getting it from where? Straight from the
The
source.
Trinity. Yeah.
Yeah, straight from the source. Right?
Yes.
All right, dear, you're next. Let me go down here and mute first.
Wisdom is twofold in origin, being derived from the perfection of divine insight, inherent in perfect beings, and from the personal experience acquired by evolutionary creatures. The perfecters of wisdom are the divine wisdom of the paradise perfection of deity insight. Their administrative associates on Uversa, the mighty messengers, those without name and number, and those high in authority, when acting together, are the universe wisdom of experience. A divine being can have perfection of divine knowledge. An evolutionary mortal can sometimes attain perfection of ascendant knowledge, but neither of these beings alone exhausts the potentials of all possible wisdom. Accordingly, whenever in the conduct of the super universe, it is desired to achieve the maximum of administrative wisdom, these perfecters of the wisdom of divine insight are always associated with those ascendant personalities who have come up to the high responsibilities of super universe authority through the experiential tribulations of evolutionary progression. Wow.
Okay. Do you remember that the mighty messengers, those without name and number, and those high in authority, those are all what? Perfected mortals. Okay. So they came up just like we are, started at the beginning and worked their way all the way to become finalators, and eventually became mighty messengers, those without name and number, and those in highest authority. Now, because they have experience, the wisdom of experience, they are paired up with whom? The perfecters of wisdom. Okay, that gives you deity insight or paradise perfection of wisdom, right? But it also gives you experiential perfection of wisdom from those who have actually experienced it in the 7 super universes. So that's why they say here, wisdom is twofold in origin. It has the divine aspect of it, right? And then it also has the personal experience aspect acquired by the evolutionary creatures. And that's what these beings do, right? And what they're trying to give us is what they say here, exhaust the potentials of all possible wisdom. You see that? That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to give us all the divinity wisdom plus all the experiential wisdom that's developed from humans or mortals coming up through the process and becoming finalators. Pretty special, I'd say, wouldn't you? All right, so they cover all aspects of it.
Roger,
Yes.
are you saying that they continue to grow in wisdom?
Not the perfecters of wisdom, but we
Yes,
continue to grow along with mighty messengers, those without name and number, and those in high authority. They continue to grow. right? Because they continue to experience new things with these divine counselors. I mean, the perfecters of wisdom along the way. So they gain even more experience, and we benefit from that by having them, these types of beings, teach us, right?
Okay. But
All
all
right.
potential wisdom already exists in
All
the
potential,
perfecters of wisdom.
that's right. Every bit of
Okay.
it. Now, the interesting part of this is this. Not only was the perfecters of wisdom present when this book was revealed, but there was also, guess what? A mighty messenger, one of those without name and number, and one of those of high authority. Now, why do you think they were there when the paper was revealed too? Because it gives the information revealed through the papers, not only the deity insight, but it gives us the insight of beings who have done every bit of this themselves, right? So this is part of the group of beings that were assigned to reveal these papers to us. Okay, pretty darn special, I'd say.
Very special.
You know, all right. Let's go on to the next one. Millie, would you take the next one, too? The perfecters of wisdom will always.
Yes, the perfecters of wisdom will always require this complement of experiential wisdom for the completion of their administrative sagacity. But it has been postulated that a high and hitherto unattained level of wisdom may possibly be achieved by the paradise finalators after they are sometime inducted into the seventh stage of spirit existence. If this inference is correct, then would such perfected beings of evolutionary ascent undoubtedly become the most effective universe administrators ever to be known in all creation. I believe that such is the high destiny of finalators.
Okay, so
You learn it
know,
here and you learn it here and use it there.
that's right. We know that we become up to 6th-stage spirits when we become finalators, right? And then we don't step into 7th-stage spirits to all 7 super universes are settled in light and life. Okay, and we all step into 7th-stage spirits at the same time, the whole 7 super universes. That's a long way off, right? But they're postulating here that when that happens, the finalators, which is us, that have gone on this pathway and become 7th-stage spirits will be the most effective universe administrators ever to be known, because we will have the what? The deity insight of wisdom, and we'll have the experiential insight of wisdom. So that makes us ready to become the most high beings of wisdom in the 7 super universe. And that's why they think that our destiny as finalators will be in the outer space levels, because that will be the next step, right? That's where this all comes from. So all this postulation about what's going to happen and what we're going to do is because of this. All right. Let's see, I'm back up, right? The versatility of the perfecters of wisdom enables them to participate in practically all of the celestial services of the ascendant creatures. The perfecters of wisdom and my order of personality, the divine counselors, together with the universal censors, constitute the highest order of beings who may and do engage in the work of revealing truth to the individual planets and systems, whether in their earlier epochs or when settled in light and life. From time to time, we will make contact with the service of the ascending mortals from an initial life planet on up through a local universe and the super universe, particularly the latter. So what's he telling us here? Said the versatility of this group of beings, right? The perfecters of wisdom the divine counselors and the universal censors, along with the finaliter groups, right? The mighty messengers, those without name and numbers, et cetera, are all part of the group who revealed the truth to individual planets. Now, what are they talking about? They're talking about the book. You see that?
Mhm.
This is the group that reveals the truth to the individual planets on the earlier epics. That's us, right? Through light and life. So when they gave us this revelation, okay, it came from the highest sources, both celestial and human, available. Okay. So when you read something in this book, do you think you could yeah, that's right, you bet your bottom dollar you can just about tank it to the bank, as they say, right? Okay, let's move on to the divine counselors. That's the beings that's writing this paper. All right, Jane, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. 3, the divine counselors. These Trinity origin beings are the council of deity to the realms of the 7 super universes. They are not reflective of the divine council of the Trinity. They are that council. There are 21 billion counselors in service, and 3 billion are assigned to each super universe.
So if there's 21 billion, 3 in each 7 super universe, that makes 21, right? Okay. Also, just like the perfecters of wisdom, the divine counselors are not reflective of the council of the Trinity, are they? They are the council of the Trinity. So when the divine counselor tells you something, counsels you on something, where's it coming from? The Trinity itself, right? Just as this, if you were standing in front of the Trinity, they're telling you right there, okay? And here you see a universal censor along with 7 divine counselors, okay? And we're gonna learn a little bit more about this in a minute. I wanna read this. No, I'm not gonna read it because it's in the text of this coming up. All right, Diane, you're back up again.
Divine counselors are the associates and equals of the universal censors and the perfecters of wisdom, from 1 to 7 counselors being associated with each of these latter personalities. All 3 orders participate in the government of the Ancients of Days, including major and minor sectors, in the local universes and constellations, and in the councils of the local system sovereigns.
Okay, so the divine counselors are the equals to the censors and the perfecters of wisdom, right? First, okay. And normally they have from 1 to 7 of these counselors in a group when they act together, okay? So what would happen is you would have what? You would have 1 perfecter of wisdom, 1 to 7 divine counselors in this group, right? And 1 universal censor. So that makes up 9. Okay. So a group of 9 basically is like a judgment panel on anything in the universe. And these are the beings that help do what? Reveal the paper to us. Okay. So we know right off the bat, there were at least 9 of them, right? That helped with this paper. Okay. These beings participate in the government, not only in the Ancients of Days, but the major minor sectors, the local universe, and the constellations, right? And in the councils of the local system sovereign. So all the local universes, all the Michaels out there, all have these counselors to help lead them along and how to do it correctly. It's pretty special, right? Huh?
Nice to have friends. in
Nice
high
to have
places.
friends in high places. That's right. All right, let's go on to the next paragraph. Millie, I think you're back up again.
Okay. We act as individuals, as I do in indicting this statement, but we also function as a trio whenever the occasion requires. When we act in an executive capacity, always there are associated together a perfecter of wisdom, a universal censor, and from 1 to 7 divine counselors.
Okay, so what's he telling us here? He says, when we act as individual, as I do in indicting this statement, he was the one that wrote the statement, right? He's the one that wrote the paper, okay? But he functioned, when they did this, they acted in an executive capacity, okay? So they came up with what they wanted to reveal to us, and then they chose him to act individually to relay that information to us in a written form. You got it?
In English.
In English, right? All right. Let's go on to, I don't want to overstep my paragraphs here, so I'm going to just go on to the next paragraph. All right. 1 perfecter of wisdom, 7 divine counsels, and 1 universal censor constitute a tribunal of Trinity divinity, the highest mobile advisory body in the universes of time and space. Such a group of 9 is known as either a fact-finding or as a truth-revealing tribunal. When it sits in judgment upon a problem, renders a decision, it is just as if the ancients of days had adjudicated the matter. For in all annuals of the super universes, such a verdict has never been reversed by the ancients of days. Okay? Now, do you remember when we read a statement in the book a couple of times when beings said, this is the highest source of information I know of where I speak? It's in a couple places in the book. This is why. This is the highest tribunal of the Trinity divinity in the mobile form in the universes of time and space. So when they got together in a group of 9, and they were doing what in our cases? Revealing truth. They were a truth revealing tribunal. Got it? So when they were doing this and giving us this information, it's just as if it came from where? The ancients of days. Got it? That's why this is so important. And when they do this on any matter, no matter what they're working on, it's just as if a verdict has been has been put in by the ancients of days, and not to any time up to now has any one of their decisions ever been reversed by the ancients of days. Okay, so what does that mean to us? Do you think when we read something out of this book, we can kind of count on it being accurate? I would say it's pretty close, right? Okay. I keep hearing people talking meetings and such and such and such and such. This book needs to be updated. It's not up to date. It's not this, it's not that. Poppycock. That's what I say. All right. Because it's the highest known knowledge that we can absorb at this time. And it's supposed to be good for another 1,000 years. Okay. So you're not going to be off base too bad by quoting from this book. Okay. Let's see here. Jane, would you take the next one?
When the 3 ancients of days function, the Paradise Trinity functions. When the tribunal of 9 arrives at a decision following its united deliberations, To all intents and purposes, the Ancients of Days have spoken. And it is in this manner that the paradise rulers make personal contact in administrative matters and governmental regulations with the individual worlds, systems, and universes.
So they can make a decision all the way down to the local planet, right? All right.
Pretty final.
That's pretty final, just like the ancients of days spoke, right?
Mhm.
Divine counselors are the perfection of the divine counsel of the Paradise Trinity. We represent, in fact, are the counsel of perfection. When we are supplemented by the experiential counsel of our associates, the perfected and Trinity embraced beings of evolutionary ascent, our combined conclusions are not only complete, but replete. When our united counsel has been associated, adjudicated, confirmed, and promulgated by a universal censor, it is very probable that it approaches the threshold of universal totality. That's it. Such verdicts represent the nearest possible approach to the absolute attitude of deity within the time-space limits of the situation involved and the problem concerned.
Okay, so when this group, it gets together, okay, and they make decisions, all right, guess who is the totaler of this? The universal censor. So when they come up with a decision together, the universal censor totals all this information and comes up with a decision. They pass that on to the ancients of days. Okay, that's why they're totaling personalities. Okay, now they mention here that when evolutionary beings add to this council, what happens? You have the highest council possible in the universe. And we're going to find out in this next little paragraph that when you add those high in authority, those without name and number, and a mighty messenger, you have a council of what? 12, right? 12 beings, okay? Guess what council it was that revealed this paper? 12 beings. You got it? So we got not only the divinity side of this, we also got the experiential side of this, because they also had a mighty messenger, one high in authority, and those one without name and number. And if you look it up in the index, you can see there's papers written by each one of these types of beings. Okay, and that's why. Okay. So let's go.
Roger,
Yeah.
what do you call the council of all 12? Is there a name?
Yes, there is. And I think it is called something like the Council of 12 or something like that, Rodney, but I can't swear to it.
All right.
Okay. But it's sort of like the combination of, they call it, well, we're going to get to it in a minute. I'll point it out when we get to it. Okay. Here we go. Let's go to the next one. Who's up now?
I just read.
You just read? Millie, would you take the next one?
Yes.
7 divine councils.
7 divine counselors in liaison with a trinitized evolutionary trio, a mighty messenger, one high in authority, and one without name or number, represent the nearest superuniverse approach to the union of the human viewpoint and the divine attitude on mere paradisical levels of spiritual meaning and reality values. Such close approximation of the united cosmic attitudes of the creature and the creator is only surpassed in the paradise bestowal sons, who are in every phase of personality experience, God and man.
So when you add these beings together with a mighty messenger, one high in authority and one without name and number, you get the highest viewpoint. And notice here it says near parasitical levels of spiritual meaning and reality values. In other words, it's trying to tell us this is the highest spiritual meanings you can get outside paradise, okay, itself, and the reality of values outside paradise. And the only ones that are closer approximations of this are what? The creator sons, okay? Because they are what? God and man. They have the experience of man and they come as sons of God. Makes sense? So when Jesus or Michael tells us something, do you think it's going to be on the money or not?
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be right on the money, isn't it? Because he knows. I know, it's kind of like I am that I am, right? Because he's the Son of God. All right. Let's go to the third part, the universal censor. Okay. There are exactly 8 billion universal censors in existence. These unique beings are the judgment of deity. They are not merely reflective of the decisions of paradise. They are the judgment. Oh, what did I say?
Decisions of perfection.
Oh, decisions of perfection. They are the judgment of the paradise Trinity. Even the ancients of days do not sit in judgment except in association with the universal censors. So even the ancients of days don't make decisions without the input of the universal censor. That's how important these are, right? Why do you think there's 8 billion of them? There's 1 billion for the 7 super universes. And unlike the other 2, there are a universal censor stationed on every single planet of Havona. Now, not even the divine counselors or the perfecters of wisdom know exactly why that is. Okay? It's a mystery to them too. So they believe that sometime in the future that the universal censors will need to be stationed on these planets in Havona because of the beings that's going to be filtering through Havona from where? The outer space levels. Yeah, that's why they believe they're there. All right. All right. I'm going to go on with that just next. All right. Did Millie just read? Okay. 1 censor is commissioned on each of the billion worlds of the censor universe, being attached to the planetary administration of the residential eternals of days. Neither perfecters of wisdom nor divine counselors are thus permanently attached to the Havona administrations, nor do we altogether understand why universal censors are stationed in the central universe. Their present activities hardly account for their assignment in Havona, and we therefore suspect that they are there in anticipation of some needs of future universe age in which Havona population may partially change. You see that? So they're not sure exactly why they're there now, but they think it's because of the changes that's coming to Havona, okay, of beings. All right. Jane, would you take the next one?
1 billion censors are assigned to each of the 7 super universes, both in an individual capacity and in association with perfecters of wisdom and divine counselors. They operate throughout all divisions of the 7 super universes. Thus, the censors act on all levels of the grand universe, from the perfect worlds of Havona to the councils of the system sovereigns, and they are an organic part of all dispensational adjudications of the evolutionary worlds.
Okay, so there's a billion of these on each of the 7 super universes, right? And we can understand why they are necessary in the 7 super universes, correct? Because they are the totaling aspect for the Ancients of Days, right? Now think of this, one possibility. Maybe the reason they are in Havona is as we as mortals come into Havona, and we have to make decisions and learn in Havona on each and every world. Maybe the universal censors help determine whether we have made the grade for the next planet to go from planet to planet and grow. You see what I'm saying? Because they're already totaling beings, so they know how much we have learned, right? So that may be part of their reason for being there, okay? Because they are the judgment of deity. Okay, Diane, would you take the next one?
Whenever and wherever a universal censor is present, then and there is the judgment of deity. And since the censors always render their verdicts in liaison with perfecters of wisdom and divine counselors, such decisions embrace the united wisdom, counsel, and judgment of the Paradise Trinity. In this judicial trio, the perfecter of wisdom would be the I was, the divine counselor, the I will be, but the universal censor is always I am.
There it is. That's what we were talking about earlier tonight, right? There it is in black and white. Or blue and white. Right. All right. So the universal censor is always the judgment, and it's always the I am. Right. Okay. And they always work in unison with the divine counselor and the perfecters of wisdom. Right. Now, I got a question for you. If they work in conjunction with the divine counselors and the perfecters of wisdom, do you think they ever make an error in judgment? No, it's not possible, is it? All right. Yeah, that's right. All right. Diane or Millie, would you take the next one?
Mhm. The censors are universe totaling personalities. 1,000 witnesses have given testimony, or 1,000,000 when the voice of wisdom has spoken and the council of divinity has recorded, when the testimony of ascended perfection has been added, then the censor functions and there is immediately revealed an unerring and divine totaling of all that has transpired. And such a disclosure represents the divine conclusion, the sum and substance of a final and perfect decision. Therefore, when a censor has spoken, no one else may speak, for the censor has depicted the true and unmistakable total of all that has gone before. When he speaks, there is no appeal.
That's why there's no appeal once the Ancients of Days makes a decision. Yeah, really, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? They'd get it right every time, right? All right, so he's the totaling aspect of these beings. All right, so no matter how many witnesses comes or how much information is given out, the universal censor says this is the way it is. Now, how does that affect us? Guess what happens when you go to judgment after you die? You're judged through reflectivity, right? So the information is given through the censors, universal censors, and they give the recommendation to whom? The Ancients of Days, right? What's the last sentence says here? When he speaks, there is no appeal, right? So when the Ancients of Days makes the decision, which they sometimes do, annihilate a being, you think it's ever going to be the other way around? No, no, because all that has been said and done from the beginning to the end has been totaled up by the universal censor. So your judgment is totally fair all the time. Got it? All right. So there's no chance of a mistake ever. All right. Let's see here. I guess I'm up again, huh? Most fully do I understand the operation of the mind of the perfecter of wisdom, but I certainly do not fully comprehend the working of the adjudicating mind of a universal censor. It appears to me that the censors formulate new meanings and originate new values from the association of the facts, truths, and findings represented to them in the course of an investigation of universe affairs. It seems probable that the universal censors are able to bring forth original interpretations of the combination of perfect creator insight and the perfected creator experience. This association of paradise perfection and universe experience undoubtedly eventuates a new value in ultimates. Okay, so he takes everything that's coming in, takes the universe standpoint or the paradise standpoint and the experiential standpoint and adds them together. All right. All right.
And they can come up with a new value.
A new value that are absolute values, right? That's what they're saying, ultimates. Okay.
But new is, to me, new is the important word here.
It is.
They are expanding what they know as values. This is a new value.
Yeah, and Millie, that new value may not be what they expect, right? May not be what a universal, what a perfecter of wisdom and a divine counselor expects from all this, right? So it's a
Right.
new value to them because they think, well, where'd he get that from? You know? So,
Interpreting the facts that they
interpreting the
presented.
facts. That's right.
Roger,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the only reason that there would be a new value is it's because of the creature experience that's
Related to that.
formula.
That's right. Yeah.
If it were
Because
not for the creature experience, how could there be a new value?
there couldn't be, Rodney. That's exactly right. It has to be a new value because of the experience of the creature, right? Okay, now let's not get too far off. This next paragraph kind of brings it together because they don't really understand how this works, but this next paragraph actually puts another monkey wrench in here. So let's let Jane read it.
But this is not the end of our difficulties regarding the working of the minds of the universal censors. Having made due allowances for all that we know or conjecture about the functioning of a censor in any given universe situation, we find that we are still unable to predict decisions or to forecast verdicts. We are very accurately determine the probable result of the association of creator attitude and creature experience, but such conclusions are not always accurate forecasts of censor disclosures. It seems likely that the censors are in some manner in liaison with the deity absolute. We are otherwise unable to explain many of their decisions and rulings.
You catch that? The
Mm.
deity absolute. They think that the deity absolute influences the decision of the censors. Y'all remember who the deity absolute is? That's one of the three absolutes outside God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit, and paradise, right? There's three other absolutes, right? The deity absolute, the unqualified absolute, and the universal absolute. They think the deity absolute in some manner influences the decision of the censors. And if that's the case, that means that a absolute value is plugged into this decision that comes directly from where?
From
God the Father, God the
God the
Son,
Son, and
God the Spirit, and the three absolutes. Say, this is the
Yes.
way it has to be, right?
Roger,
Yeah.
are you saying that it is in the unqualified absolute, then that this new value could the potentiality had been in it?
No, because the
No.
unqualified absolute is basically has to do with building universes from nothingness. Okay. The deity absolute has everything to do with anything relating to how deity influences everything, both spiritual, Urantia, and physical, right? So it's the deity absolute that would be involved. Now, the universal absolute would plug in the concepts of the deity absolute to the finite part of it. Okay. So the universal absolute would be what? The gateway into the finite. You follow me?
Yes, it's step down.
It's a step down. Yeah. The deity absolute is the concepts of deity, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the decision that the deity absolute wants to come into fruition would be passed on to the universal absolute, because that's the in-between part, right? And then that would be passed on to the finite world. Now, the unqualified absolute is just for physical matter stuff. It doesn't have any deity in it, right? So it wouldn't be involved in this, would it? Right?
No,
Only the
it's
deity and
outside.
the unqualified. I mean, the universal, right?
Right.
Did I lose everybody?
Not really, no.
No, you got it. So what they're saying is this: because of these unusual decisions, they think that the deity absolute has some opinion about whatever they're trying to decide. Okay. So the deity absolute communicates this to the censor, and then the censor comes up with new values and new ultimates. You see that in the previous paragraph? So up here, they were talking about, hang on, let me go back a little bit. This association of paradise perfection, that's God, right? And universe experience, that's finite, right? Undoubtedly eventuates. What's an eventuation? That's something brought forth from God, right? A new value in ultimate. In other words, the paradise perfection says, this is from the deity absolute, says this is the way it has to be. Okay, so it passes it on through the universal absolute, right, down to the finite, and they come up with a new ultimate concept and pass it on to the censor. And that censor makes a decision, says this is the new concept and a new value, and this is how we're going to decide this. You got me? So it all works together. It's a big circle.
Yes.
Make sense? Or did I blow everybody's mind? And everybody's going, no, I don't know what the heck he's talking about.
No, we got the idea, and I'm sure you will complete it as we keep going.
Yes, it all plugs in together.
Yeah,
It
we
really does.
got
So
the
is outer
thread.
Space created by the deity absolute. And the,
No, outer space is, well, yes, it is. The concepts of outer space comes from the deity absolute, but actually the outer space comes from unqualified absolute.
unqualified.
Yeah, right. And he uses what? The architects of the master universe, which are beings, to do his bidding.
Unqualified. Because
Right.
unqualified, yeah. okay.
Because the unqualified just moves the primordial matter, and it's the architects that actually put it into motion, right? And then they pass it on to what? The power directors. All right. And the power director passes it on to the controllers, mechanical, physical controllers. And then you have atoms coming into existence and protons and neutrons and all these other stuff. And that's where all the power people come in, or the power beings come in, right? To make everything run. Now, without any one of these beings, would there be anything? No, there couldn't be. Right? Because this is God's hand working, moving these things around.
Right.
Right? This is where it always comes back to the I am. The unqualified absolute would be nothing without what? The I am. The deity absolute would be nothing without what? The I am. The universal absolute would be nothing without what? The I am. Right? Paradise, Havona would be nothing without what? The I am. God, the spirit, the infinite spirit would be nothing without what? The I am. It's the base, right? The sun, the eternal sun would be nothing without what? The I am. And that comes back to the universal Father, the first source and center, right? We went around in circles, but we got back, didn't we? All right, let's finish this up tonight before we quit. I know we're going to go over a little bit. Is that okay with everybody? And then we'll stop at the end of this section. We've got 2 more paragraphs. All right. Did you just read, right, Jane? Jane, you did? All right. Diane, would you take the next one? The
Perfecters of wisdom, divine counselors, and universal censors, together with the 7 orders of Supreme Trinity personalities, constitute those 10 groups which have been sometimes designated stationary sons of the Trinity. Together, they comprise the grand core of Trinity administrators, rulers, executives, advisors, counselors, and judges. Their numbers slightly exceed 37 billion. 2,070,000,000 are stationed in the central universe, and just over 5 billion in each super universe.
So this includes all these beings we've been discussing, the perfecters of wisdom, the divine counselor, the universal censors, and all 7 orders of the Supreme Trinity personalities. Who is that? That includes the eternals of days, perfections of days, the recents of days, the ancients of days, perfections of days, the union of days. Who did I forget? The ones at the very top. But anyway, all these plus all the administrators, rulers, and all that exceed 37 billion in the 7 super universes. So we have a lot of Trinity personalities helping us out, don't we? All right. Let's read this last paragraph and then we'll quit for tonight. Millie, would you take that very last one?
Yes. It is very difficult to portray the functional limits of the stationary sons of the Trinity. It would be incorrect to state that their acts are finite, limited, for there are transactions of superuniverse record which indicate otherwise. They act on any level of universe administration or adjudication that may be required by time, space conditions, and that pertains to the past, present, and future evolution of the master universe.
That's the 7 super universes of Havona and Paradise, right? So
Yes.
the stationary sons of Trinity are not just limited to the finite aspect of it, but they also work in transactions that are, what else? Spiritual, right? Morantial, physical, everything in the master universe. Okay, so these are the stationary sons of the Trinity, all of them together, right? So it kind of brings it all into a great big package, and that's all about what's happening past, present, and future evolution
Roger?
to the master universe. Yeah.
The master universe includes the outer space, the 4
Yeah,
rings.
for what's going to function there in
But
the future.
there can obviously they're considered evolutionary as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. There'll be evolution in the outer space levels, just like there's evolution in these 7 super universes, right? That's why they're building them out there right now. Right. So they'll keep going out. In other words, they're not out there right now, but they will be going out there. Okay. All right. Next time we'll take up the inspired Trinity spirits. These are kind of strange order. We'll talk about this next time. All right, let's say a short prayer and we'll quit for tonight. Father, thank you for bringing us together and allowing us to expand our minds a little bit, learn some new things, try to expand our horizons for the future. We thank you for the opportunity to learn this. We thank you for the opportunity to share this. And we know this is all for our better good and for your will in our lives each and every day. We thank you. We give you the praise in your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen. And thank you for joining us at home. Please come see us again. You'll stop your recording too.